Glad you're here. My name's Andy Clark. I'm one of the pastors at the church. And just like Pastor Mike said, we're glad everybody, brave to come out here and be with us today. And so it's a very good day. God is in control. I like what the song said, even when we don't feel He's working, He's working. He's working. He can absolutely work everything to our good, too, as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well, because I guess the pressing question is, with everything that's going on in the world today and society and all over media, churches, what does the church talk about, in a time like this? And so do we confront it head on and go straight into it, or do we, keep rolling? How do we handle this? So through a lot of prayer and consideration, we feel like the Holy Spirit's telling us that actually what we had to talk about today fits in really well with some teachings we can learn through all of this. And so what we're going to do, we're going to keep rolling with the wisdom from the Psalms, but the Holy Spirit's really been talking over last night and this morning too about some ways this directly impacts some ways as well. So we're going to do that. Now, granted, going forward, there's been a lot of decisions made over the past 2 days. Like schools are out till April, and some places are closing down. And so if it does maybe get more extreme as it goes on, this next week's going to tell a lot. Maybe we do, So we're going to continue with the Holy Spirit's guidance, and maybe we do hit it. But as of today, we're going to continue with our series called Wisdom from the Psalms, all right? So last week, Pastor David Petrelli, he kicked us off with Psalm 42. That was a good one. He had a lot of good wisdom. So if you want to go on to HRCL.life, you can see that. Also, too, if you'd like to go there now, you can see the message points and the scriptures that we're going to use today as well. So we're going to jump straight into this. Okay, we're going to be in Psalm 39 today. Psalm 39. So Psalm 39 is about halfway through our Bible. We see mine's open to it here. And this is a psalm from David. So we'll kick in, and we're going to start in verse 1 and see what it has to say. So it says this: to the choir master, to that guy, right? A psalm of David. I said, I will guard my ways, that I may not sin with my tongue. I will guard my mouth with a muzzle, so as long as the wicked are in my presence. So we just see that David's in some type of situation, okay, and he's saying he's going to guard his mouth, he's going to watch his ways, all right? He's in some type of situation where he's in the presence of the wicked, quote unquote, right? So we don't know who they are, but there's people around that he wants to be careful on how he's acting and how he's talking. All right, now we don't know what the situation is. I mean, maybe he's at the local marketplace, okay, like 2,000 years ago in Israel. Maybe he's at the local marketplace and he's buying his hummus and olives, right? Some food from there, and maybe he sees some teenagers. They're over there and they're listening to their rock music from Ishmael the Dragon Slayer, and they're drinking their wine, and he wants to go over there and be a dad and say, you guys don't need to be doing this. You need to go home. You need to do some homework or something, right? He's in the presence of the wicked. He wants to say something. Or it could be maybe he's at work. Maybe he's at the local donkey selling place, because they didn't have cars back then. They had donkeys and camels, so maybe they had donkey lots. I don't know. Maybe he's at Donkeys R Us, and he's there and he's around his coworkers, and they're telling these crude, illicit jokes, right? He's in front of them, and he just wants to say something, right? So apparently he's in a situation where he's in that around people and he wants to say something. But the situation, it really seems to be bothering him, because as we keep reading in verses 2 and 3, it says this: I was mute and silent. I held my peace to no avail, and my distress grew worse. My heart became hot within me. As I mused, the fire burned. So basically, he's keeping silent. He's not saying anything, but man, it's like it's killing him, He's like, man, my distress is growing worse. I mean, I really want to say something. And while I'm not talking, the fire is burning on the inside, right? He's burning up on the inside. He just wants to say it. And he says that he's musing, okay? And musing means to murmur, whisper, and to complain. We would call it talking underneath our breath. When you want to say something really bad, and you're just like, and God only knows what we're saying in those moments. We're not going to get into it because we're in church people, right? But yeah, so I think, so how many people can relate to something like that, right? Ever been in a situation where you're just in some situation, you don't know what it is, man, and I tell you just got something you want to say so bad, and it's just killing you inside, and it's right on the tip of your tongue, and you're just saying God knows what underneath your breath, and we're just really wanting to say it. So I think we can all seem to relate with that. So we'll start off with some of this wisdom from the Psalm that we're going to go ahead and learn from David, and that's this. Just because you think it doesn't mean we have to say it. Right? Just because we think it doesn't mean that we have to say it. Every situation in life does not demand an immediate reply or an action. No, there can be a period of reflective thought that goes with that. Because there's a difference between reacting to life and then choosing to act to life. So, whenever we're reacting to life, basically, something happens and we don't really give it much thought or anything. We just say it. We just do it, right? We just react to the situation. But then there's choosing to act to life, whereas, we can have that period of reflective thought and we can choose our words and our actions carefully. And I know I can definitely relate to this because in my, in the church world, we might call it our past life or something. Before we come to Jesus, a lot of us lived one way, it was unhealthy and we had all these things we were doing, but then we met Jesus and Jesus totally radically changed our life and who we are, and now we have a new life, and now we have a new life. So in my old life, I was a very angry and depressed person. And so how I perceived life in the moment is what I thought reality was, right? So a lot of times I just reacted out of raw emotion. Something happened and the anger and depression kicked in and I just reacted in the moment. I never really had that period of reflective thought or anything. I just reacted, and honestly, that helped ruin my life. I was just on this continuous spread. But now, through God, I've learned that not everything demands an immediate reaction. It's good to have a good period of reflective thought between them. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I'm perfect, right? I'm not going to sit up here and tell you I don't have a threshold to when I blow up to like the other person. I am human as well, So, but. I'm definitely a whole lot better than what I used to be, but I'm a long way from where I need to be. Does that make sense? Right? That's kind of hard to explain, but it makes sense, right? Because, I've definitely learned that we have thoughts within us, right? And then thoughts produce emotions. And then emotions a lot of times produce our action, So life will happen, and we have a thought, a perception of it. It produces these emotions, and then we act out of those emotions. Now, granted, this can be tricky because, the way we perceive something in the moment may be differently than the way that we feel about it later. So sometimes we react in the moment, and then later on down the road, maybe a day or something down the road, we're like, oh, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I wouldn't have done that. And, sometimes we go pretty deep in those moments, and, you don't really have that period of where, you can get back to where you were with someone sometimes, and even like moments like these, we're in a tough situation. There's a lot of news, there's a lot of facts being thrown around. Everybody has their own opinions, and this produces emotions, right? It produces those raw emotions, which are okay, right? We're emotional creatures. God made us that way, but at the same time, we can stop and take some reflective thought and pray and try to gather. We don't have to always just act and say out of our emotions, especially in crazy times like these. It's good to have a good, real perspective on things. So something else we can learn from David here is this. Consider your words carefully. All right, consider your words and your actions carefully, especially in times whenever we're really heated in the moment. Whenever we're murmuring, only God knows what we are saying. Like I said, it's in those moments we can really react and say things that we don't mean and maybe regret later. Now, granted, maybe we mean what we say, but we just didn't say it in a way that was constructive in the moment. Maybe we said it in a way that was detrimental to their relationships. So a good period of reflective thought, considering our words in the moment, never we're heated, never we want to say it, to not say it, and to consider, and later on down the road, never we've actually processed our emotions and see how we truly feel about the situation, then we can approach the individual or whatever is going on. Then we can approach them and have a good, solid, constructive talk with them about how we feel, and then that'll help hopefully better their relationship. And then in those moments, if the person doesn't want to hear what we have to say or they react differently, at least we can know that we did our part in trying to make it constructive in the moment. And you know, I mean, this stuff right here, this absolutely can happen in families. You know, we can see families, families can be torn apart like this. You know, families can be torn apart. And families, we learn each other. You know, we learn our quirks, and we learn what buttons to push and everything. So sometimes, you know, we can get in these moments where we're burning up and we just start flaring off. And then sometimes, like I said, you know, sometimes we say things that are too deep, and you just can't do a forgive and forget. You know, sometimes you have to work through these situations. And so, you know, it's hard to just move on. Like I don't know, like between a husband and wife, like men, you know, whenever we're single, you know, usually we go to the gym or something, you know, we try to take care of ourselves. You know, we're trying to get a woman, you know, so we got to look the part. But then we get married, you know, and sometimes the gym falls off, and so we're like, you know, start getting self-conscious, like, honey, you know, I really don't feel like I have that muscle body anymore. You know, what do you think about that? She might say, well, yeah, you know, the other day I was eating chicken legs and I thought about yours. So, yeah, you don't want to say that. Or you could, you know, for the wives, say, you know, wives might say, hey, honey, you know, do these jeans make me look bigger? And the husband will say, I got to go get some Lysol over this Corona thing, babe. I got to head out of here. I'm out of this one. Right. So the answer, by the way, is, honey, you're always beautiful. Right, babe, you're always beautiful. It doesn't matter. So yeah, but I mean, obviously, you know, this can definitely, you know, have an effect on families. This speaking issue, and really, I mean, this plays into what we're going on with now. Because think about it. School's out for the next 2 weeks. You know, we can't go as many places. Places are being shut down. So families, we're going to start spending a lot more time together at home. And sometimes, you know, when we have our own lives, everybody's doing their things, we're out doing stuff, and then so we come together at a certain point, we hang out with each other. But, you know, sometimes whenever we're, quote unquote, you know, right on top of each other for maybe a week or 2 or 3, you know, it's easy to get stressed out and burdened, and then here comes the talking. You know, it's going to be easy for us to get stressed out and say things and consider, maybe even argue a little bit more. So this is something, you know, we need to be realizing over the next couple of weeks too, is, you know, just because we think it, no man, we have to say it. Consider our words carefully, and if we want to say something, give that period of reflective thought so we can build our families and not tear them down. All right? Because Proverbs 18:21, it does say that the power of life and death are in the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Meaning we can say good things or we can say bad things. But whatever we say, we're going to feel the effects of it. Right? And also Proverbs 12:18, I like this one. It tells about the power of words. There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. So we can say words, man, you know, that cut people down, you know, or we can say words that can absolutely try to heal. Especially like in the moment, you know, we can say things that's going to cut them down, or we can try to say things to heal. Like I said, with families, you know, we know each other pretty well, so we know how to dig right to the core, right? How to cut right deep. And so what happens at that moment is the person's hurt. So what happens is, okay, well, you hurt me to that level. Now I'm going to hurt you to that level, right? So then we go to that level, and bam, and now it's just, you know, it's off and running. It could be something like, you know, I remember that time you wore blue to my cousin's wedding, and the theme was green. And then the spouse would say, yeah, okay, well, you wore white after Labor Day. You're not supposed to do that. And I say those examples because, you know, sometimes the things that we argue about are just about as stupid as that. They're about as small and minuscule as that. So, you know, about the Proverbs, the power of life and death are in the tongue. It doesn't say the tongue has to be moving for it to have that power. So basically what David is showing here too, with him not speaking, is he's showing the power of silence as well. Right? Because silence has power too. Sometimes what we don't say has just as much effect as what we do say. I mean, think about it. If you get two people, you know, they're in a little heated battle, right? And tempers are flared and we're burning up and we're ready to say, really the best way to stop it is for someone to just be quiet. You know, just be quiet. But it's hard because now we're burning up, right? So somebody comes at you with, yeah, well, I remember when you, and so they say it, boy, and then you just get mad. You know, your distress is growing worse. You're burning hot within. It's right on the tip of your tongue, and you want to say it, you know. But the best thing to do is to be silent and consider words carefully and let the emotions process and then talk about it later. But that can be hard, right? So see, the use of silence is also a positive thing, too. Now, family and marriages, you know, are easy example, you know, because, now, granted, I know we all have perfect families and marriages, right? I know none of us here, you know, argue or anything. You know, I'm just saying, you know, just, you know, give it like an imaginative example, right? I know none of us do that. But now, granted, you know, it can extend outside of that, like friendships. Even best friends, you know, best friends learn each other. And, you know, they share trusted information. And maybe a best friend may share that information with other people, and then that totally, you know, builds their trust. And so the use of silence could have been good in that part, because you could have been silent and not said that thing about our friends and saved that whole argument. It could be even with drama, you know, like some students. I see we got some students in the room, and I know that drama and gossip's a big thing in middle school and high school, but not just that in life. You know, sometimes as adults, we act like big kids. You know, we act like we're in middle school and high school with all the drama and gossip that we partake in, honestly. You know, so the best way to stop the gossip train is to just not say something back. Because what happens is somebody says gossip about us, and so we're like, oh yeah, I can't believe they said that about me. Well, here's something about them, you know, and then bam, now it's getting heated. But to be quiet, it's hard, because you hear gossip about yourself, and you know, it burns you up. You got something on your tongue, you want to say it about them, but the best thing to do really is to be the bigger person and just stop. But that can be hard. But there we see the use of silence. One last one, work. You know, work can be hard to hold our tongue. The boss may be on us pretty hard that day. We may not be having a good day. Maybe some coworkers are giving us problems, and we just throw our hands up. I quit. I'm out of here, right? I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going home, and I'm leaving. Well, now the income's gone, right? Now the income's gone. There was no job to back it up, so our life has taken a major turn, because what we should have done in the moment is just been quiet, you know, kind of ate it, and then later on maybe have a perspective of, well, at least I have a job right now. Jobs are hard to find, so, you know, maybe I can start searching for one in the process, but I need to keep this one now because I enjoy eating, and eating costs money. So we see how silence can be useful and things like that. All right, so now that we see words, right? Words can build, words can take away, right? It's good to have control, self-control in situations. Now let's see what David does. Because he says this as we finish out verse 3. He says, then I spoke with my tongue. So here it comes, right? David's in a situation. He wants to say something. He's murmuring. He's whispering underneath his breath, right? He's hot. He's burning up, man, and he's distressed out. So here it goes. The flood, his flood's about to burst forth, and it says this in verses 4 and 5. O Lord, make me know my end, and what is the measure of my days. Let me know how fleeting I am. Behold, you have made my days a few handbreadths, and my lifetime is as nothing before you. Surely all mankind stands as a mere breath. Selah. What? That's what he chooses to say? He's all hot about something, and that's what comes out of his mouth is, God, show me how fleeting my life is? It's usually in those moments we're praying for God to shorten their life, right? We're not praying for God to show us how fleeting our life is. He doesn't say, God, show them. You know, he doesn't judge them. He doesn't condemn them. He doesn't come out with all these harsh words. What he does is say, God, show me how fleeting I am. Show me my life. Show me how short my life truly is. So that word Selah, it's a musical term, Hebrew, and it means to pause, reflect, and meditate. Right? So if the music was playing, they would have just sung those words. So at this point, the music would keep playing, and whoever's listening is supposed to stop and think about what was just said. So when you read Psalms from now on, you know what that means. So let's do that. Let's consider what David's saying here. So in these moments when we're agitated and we want to say something, how do we de-escalate a little bit? Here's the way. Ask God for humility. Ask God for humility. this is basically, what he's doing here, right? He's trying to be humble. He's trying to be aware of who he is, trying to be aware of his own shortcomings, right? He's trying to get a right-sized view of himself. He wants a new perspective on this thing. He says, show me the measurement of my days, right? It's just a hand breadth. A hand breadth was a measurement in those days. It was the width of your hand. So he's saying, in all eternity, right, this never-ending, ongoing, infinite line, if you put a hand up to that line, that's nothing. That's my life. Show me how fleeting my life is, right? Show me how short my life is. I mean, think about it, man. Life goes by fast. And we don't get a second chance at this thing on earth, It's a one-time deal. It's not like a video game. You die and you respawn, you keep going till you get it right. That's not it. We got one chance of this thing, one life. We live like we have years and years and years, but you never know. We may only have months. We live like our hourglass of life is full and it's just pouring grain, but you never know. We might be on the last 2 or 3 kernels. We don't know. And think about how much time, right? He's musing. He's upset. He's hot. Think about how much time we spend wasted with resentment and plotting revenge and anger. Like something can happen to us, man. It'll bother us for maybe weeks. It could be months. Sometimes lifetimes are spent with this stuff, And the other person, they're probably not even thinking about us at all. They're living their life, and here we are. We're the ones stuck with all these emotions, and what we're doing is we're wasting precious time. Time we could be spending with our families. Times we could be spending out just enjoying God and His creation and feeling the joy that He wants for us. Time that we could be out, spreading the hope and joy of Jesus Christ. Because God's going to put people in our path. Right? We are the light of the world. We have to answer to darkness. So think about this. How many people are still living in their darkness because we've chosen to still live in ours? And it's not just our life. Think about how short other people's lives are too. I mean, no time is promised, right? Time is precious, especially with those we love. So we don't know their lifespan either. I mean, people are here today and gone tomorrow. I know, like, my late sister's birthday is Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day. Right? Some of you may know this, been here for a little while. Some of you may not. About 3 years ago, my sister passed away in a house fire. All right? And I just spoken to her about 30 minutes before it happened. And she had called all my family. She was trying to plan a little to take us on vacation because that's what she did. She liked to bless people. And so everybody talked to her. And then a couple hours later, that's it. So my mom the other day, I was over there with her, and she was hearing about a family argument. She said, man, I wish they could really pull it together because I truly know what it's like for somebody to be here today and gone tomorrow. And it's so weird how our families, the ones that we love most, are the ones that we lash out on the most. A lot of times we treat strangers better than we do those we love. And I kind of get it. You want to be nice to people you don't know, but why can't we show the same courtesy with our family, the same courtesy that we would show to a complete stranger? This is really some wisdom here, and this is where I think we're at right now in the world. That's what I call funeral attendance mode. All right? I'm not trying to make light of a funeral. I know that's a heavy situation. But when people attend funerals, what it does, it puts life in perspective. We think, man, that could have been me. Now all the money doesn't matter anymore. All of our cars, all of our possessions, if our grass is mowed, all that stuff, it doesn't matter anymore because now we're just looking at life and how fragile it truly is. And we start reflecting, man, what have I done with my life? When I leave, man, what kind of legacy am I going to leave? I mean, do my children know I love them? Right? Does my spouse, all these things, did I do everything God wanted me to do, right? Did I serve and do everything, God had planned for me? Right? That's what we start reflecting on. That's exactly what's happening right now. The whole world is seeing the reality of how fragile our lives are at the same moment. Everybody's looking out the window right now going, am I next? And this thing is not a respecter of persons. Money's not going to save you. Our cars ain't going to save us. Our clothes ain't going to save us. Nothing. Mankind, and all of his pride, and all of his intellect, and everything we use to push away God, nothing is working right now. Mankind has been put to his right size at one time. Finally, we're all on the same playing field. The way it is. We're all sinners saved by grace. And right now, we're all the same person. Anybody could be next, right? And I'm not trying to make light of the situation. I'm truly not. But I'm just saying, this perspective that we're gaining here, this is a life-changing perspective. How fleeting life really is, how precious life really is. But the question is it going to hit us enough to keep us here? Because it's going to go away. It's going to go away, and life's going to return to normal. Now, granted, this is what Jesus calls the beginning of woes, okay? It's going to get worse eventually. In fact, if you check Revelation, there's a famine and a plague that kills a third of the whole world. About 2 billion people, right? So this is kind of a little test run here, right? This is just probably like a, hey, guys, there's a God and you ain't it. So basically, in times like these, when we're looking at our lives, especially with our families, we can ask ourselves this question: how important is it? How important is it really? In times like these, we gain whole new perspectives. We get whole new priorities, because we see how fleeting life truly is. Especially like, if we're going back to where we were about how, we're heated in the moment. We want to say, especially, we're talking about people that we love and family and those who are close to us. David says, Lord, let me know my end. Basically, God, give me a glimpse into the future a little bit. I feel this way right now. My emotions, I'm in raw emotion and I want to say it right and all these things are happening, but let me know about tomorrow. How am I going to feel tomorrow? When all this is over and I'll start reflecting on what happened and I'll start getting this true perspective, give me a glimpse of that. Let me know, how important is it that I really say this? Does it really need to be said? If this was the last thing I said to this person before they left this earth, would I be okay with that? Is it really that important that I say this? And he gains a new perspective in verse 6. Surely a man goes about as a shadow. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. Man heats up wealth and does not know who will gather. So now he's starting to look at the perspective from the other person. Because a lot of times, think about it, whenever we want to say something, whenever we're in these moments, what happens is we want to be understood, right? I want you to know where I'm coming from. I want you to hear what I have to say, right? I want you to know what I'm feeling right now. I want you to gain my perspective. Boy, he's flipping the script, and he's saying, man, let me think about the other person. I don't want to be understood. I want to try to understand a little bit. Because he's right. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. Everybody's stressed out. Everybody goes through things. We all have situations in life, and we don't know what anybody goes through. Even our spouse, even our children. Everybody has their own pains. Everybody has that pain inside that drives them. That we struggle with every day to keep moving. And so what happens is, we can add to that pain if we're not careful. Because I try to have a belief that everybody wants to do good, and everybody wants to be loved, and everybody wants to love. So if somebody's in a situation for a long time to where they're not doing that, then chances are there's something going on in their life that is causing them to act that way, right? They're going against our natural inclination to do those things. And so, in those moments, be like David. God, show me what's going on in their life. What's going on in their life that they would continuously be like this, because nobody wants to be angry for a long time. Nobody wants to do all these things for a long time. So show me what it is, God. Help me not add to the problem. Help me start healing it. Let me not use my words as a sword thrust to cut deeper. Help me use my words to heal. So now that David has these new perspectives and he's seeing things from a different light, and he's not rationally speaking, he's holding his words. And he's looking to God for another perspective. Now he says this in verse 7. And now, Lord, what do I await? My hope is in you. So now he's going to God, right? Now he's saying, okay, God, my hope's in you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, but my hope is in you. Like last week, Pastor David Petrelli, he said, whenever we hope in God, we're not hoping in what he's going to do. We're not hoping he's going to, fulfill our wish list for this situation. Our hope is in his character. And that's deep. His character. This God is in control. And he's working everything for our good. And sometimes, not to speak means to trust God, because if we are in those moments, then, sometimes we try to control a situation, or we're trying to get our will across, or we're making sure what. So not to speak means to trust God. And that's what he's talking about here. Trust God. And once again, even in this situation, with what's going on in the world, trusting God. Do we trust God? I mean, not that it's, I'm not, once again, not trying to make light out of it. But do we trust God? God is in control. Just like the song said, even when we don't feel like he's working, he's working. And he can work everything for our good. He truly can. He can work everything for our good. So I'm going to skip to the end of the psalm now. We're going to look at the last verse. 12 and 13, it says this. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear to my cry. Hold not your peace at my tears. For I am a sojourner, means traveler, with you, a guest like all my fathers. He doesn't live here, he lives somewhere else. Look away from me that I may smile again before I depart and am no more. So David's filled with these emotions. He's filled with this, and he's trying to find these new perspectives on life. He's trying to figure out how he really feels in the situation. He's choosing his words carefully, and he's doing all these things, and then he cries out to God, says, God, I just trust you. And so what he does, he goes to God with this problem. He prays to God, and he cries out to God. Sometimes we need a good cry out to God in these situations. Because it's not the fact that our feelings aren't valid and that they're not important, right? We were meant to have feelings. We were meant to be emotional creatures. God made us that way. And he cares about how we feel. We just have to be careful how we express our emotions sometimes. And so what he does is he's going to God and praying to God. God, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm feeling this way, so I'm coming to you and I'm crying out to you. So he goes to God with his emotions first. And that's good, because first we spill out our emotions to God before we just spill them out on people who don't deserve it, right? And then two, we can go to other Christians. That's what's so good to have a Christian network, to be able to talk to people, to be able to have that trusted Christian friend that you've, related with, and you built that trust level to where you can go. Because look, we're humans too. Sure, we're Christians, and we try to be loved, but look, man, we're going to get upset, right? I mean, we're going to yell. We're going to do things that's outside of our Christian nature. So it's good to have a good Christian friend who's not going to judge us in the moment, but listen and be able to work it out biblically. Be able to somebody to express these emotions. Because like I said, we're going to have these emotions, and it's good to have somebody to talk to. Because David, what's going on in the psalm really, David is in a situation where he brought it on himself. Okay? And so he's somewhere around people that are around him, and he's really hurt, and he's struggling with God to understand why this happened. Okay, but he knows that he wants to choose his words and his thoughts carefully, because he's around people who don't believe in God, and he doesn't want to do anything to misrepresent God and throw them off from believing in God. So he's being quiet so he can still be a good witness. Right? So I guarantee you, David, he's crying out to God, and I guarantee you, David has some good Christian friends, some prophets and stuff, to be able to express his feelings and emotions too. Right? So it's not the fact that it's not, because yes, we want to be good Christians, right? We want to be able to represent God well, but we also need a good avenue for our feelings and our emotions too. This can be tough. This can be tough. Like I said, we're humans and we're not perfect. And, I'm not going to sit up here and say I'm perfect. And I'm going through a situation right now, right, where I need to choose my words very carefully and how I feel and how I act. I need to make sure that I don't act out of raw emotion. I need to make sure that I'm fully, giving that time of reflection to be able to truly process and say, okay, Andy, is this how you really feel? Is this really what you want to say? Is this really what you want to do in this moment, right? Maybe you just need to chill out for a day or two and figure out what's going on, to be able to do this. And we're going to find ourselves in these situations, right? This is all the time. Like I said, it can be work, it could be at home, it could be, with friends. We're going to find ourselves in this situation to be able to do this. Now, granted, taking this and applying it to our social situation right now, the Holy Spirit's telling me this. Life is precious. Life is precious. And we are in a period right now, we are gaining new perspective on our lives, right? We're all seeing how short and fleeting and precious life is. And like the song says, everybody wants to go heaven, but nobody wants to go now, right? Because as tough as the earth is, we enjoy living, right? We do enjoy. So over these next few weeks, man, while we're trusting God, while we're being cautious and mindful, let us give right perspective to what's truly important in life. Let us show our families how much we love them. Let us spread this hope of Jesus to a dark world. Not everybody has this hope. Let us spread it. So over the next couple of weeks while we're at home, hey man, let's have fun. Because we can easily be at home for weeks and weeks and weeks, and this can easily go south very quickly, right? Families can get together, we can do this, we can do that, we can tear it apart, or we can absolutely use it as a building process. So here's an idea. Put the phones away. Put the phones away, turn it off, break out a board game, man. Spend time with each other, have conversations, because we could all be in the same house. Everybody's in their room on their tablets and on their phones. We're not relating as a family. Oh, I like your post. Why don't you go in there and tell them you like it, right? So, and one more. We're all searching, we're all wanting bread right now. Everybody's going and getting the bread and milk like we do in the snow. We're going to make our milk sandwiches, And God says, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word in the mouth of God. Right? So while we're feeding our families, while we're searching for food, let's search for God too, man. Let's search for God the same fervency that we're searching for food, that we're searching for hand sanitizer, right? The same fervency that we're doing. That's how we need to seek God, man. He says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. What are we searching for? What's our treasure, man? Where's our heart? If we put as much time and effort as we did seeking God as a family, as we did seeking God as a community, man, we could change the world. So yes, over these next couple of weeks, let's do this. Let's use this. See, God can use everything for our good. And this can be used for good if our families grow stronger. If we reset our relationship with God. If we trust God and say, God, I don't know what's going on, man. And I'm scared and I'm fearful. And we can't tell people not to be fearful in this time, But here's the deal, we can trust God. We can trust God and have Him alleviate our fears and not act out of fear and not act out of raw emotion, but act out of trust and act out of love. The church can use this as a great awakening. Now's the time. Jesus says that, the harvest is ready, but the workers are few. Right now, Jesus talks about we're fishers of men. To be a fisherman, you go to a lake and you take certain bait. And the bait you use depends on the fish you catch. Some fish are so hungry, they'll take any bait. Right now, the fishing's good, man. We're all in a perspective of life. We're all in a perspective of eternity. We're all in a perspective of where we know tomorrow could be our last. As Christians, as a church, this is our opportunity to step up and go out into the world and use the bait God has provided to catch them. Let's put on our fishing boots, Christians. Let's do it. Let's go to the Lord in prayer.